The pandemic is over. Can you believe it? I know. I mean, it only took, I don't know how many days it's been. It's been a lot of days, basically 3 years. 3 years. 3 years to bend the curve. Imagine if they told us that back in March of 2020. It's just going to take 3 years. But now, finally, the pandemic is over. Isn't that, which terminates the national emergency related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Isn't that beautiful? That is such a nice thing, isn't it? It's finally over. What did we learn from the pandemic? Well, I think the number one thing that we learned is that originally most Americans, including me, were eager to comply with what the government told us was going to be a very serious pandemic. And that kind of tolerance for what we thought everyone was going to get sick and die, when that didn't happen, we were like, what's going on here? And the majority, I would say the majority of people, even after the facts proved out that this was not as big of a deal for the general populace as it had been pitched to us, the majority was still scared. People were very, very susceptible to saying, wow, I am scared. I am willing to give up my rights. I'm willing to give up your rights. I'm willing to put you in jail, for instance, if you want to practice your faith with your fellow parishioners. I'll do anything that I possibly can, put you in jail, socially ostracize you, whatever it is, in order to feed my fear. And that's a very scary thing. Very scary thing that we just experienced. We learned a lot about human nature, and it wasn't very pretty, was it? We as a country were very eager. Americans were very eager to throw the entire Bill of Rights like under the bus in order to satisfy our short-term fear. Now, starting and say like as soon as the summer of 2020, people started to realize, well, wait a second here. No, this is that. And that's when things were, at least some people started to wake up. I took a trip to Colorado in the summer of 2020, and it was a great trip. We went to Utah as well. And I started to observe something out there, and that was probably in June or July of 2020. I think it was June. I started to observe something out there that made me start to believe that things weren't on the level. And that was especially when I went to different towns. Like, for instance, I went to Crested Butte, which is a very expensive ski resort type of place, golf too. And everyone there was social signaling. They were all signaling that they were, masks, that whole thing. There was also a George Floyd protest, which was in downtown Crested Butte that day I was there. I was there a couple of days. But everything was masks. We want you to wear a mask. But then I went to Gunnison, which is about a half an hour south of there or so. And that's more like a regular town. And one store there asked me to wear a mask. It's kind of an upscale gift store, but nobody else did. And then I realized that this was a class thing. It was a class thing. It was a battle between classes and a battle to rage between we're more special than you are, and we're going to subjugate you and wear your masks, which even Dr. Fauci in the beginning of the pandemic told us that you didn't need, it didn't work, it was pointless, right? This was a really scary experience for those of us who value the fundamental rights that the country was founded upon. Right here in beautiful Plymouth. Literally, as I said yesterday in my live stream, I'm broadcasting you from the first street in America right here, high above Town Square in downtown Plymouth, Massachusetts. We just came through this amazing thing, which nobody wants to talk about anymore, by the way. Did you notice that? Trump doesn't want to talk about it because basically it killed his presidency. The whole warp speed vaccine thing. I don't know if you know this, but the vaccine. Yeah, it's not really a vaccine either. When finally the CDC changed their definition of what a vaccine was, you knew that this was, yeah. When they changed the definition of what a vaccine is, they're up to something, right? And then, of course, they started to call this everybody started to call this. It's a vaccine of the unvaccinated. It's a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Remember that? Pandemic of the unvaccinated. But then they'd release their own numbers and they would show that actually the majority of people that were getting the virus were vaccinated. Like, wait a second here. And then they stopped publishing that data here in Massachusetts. So funny how that works. I was a big Charlie Baker fan for a long time, going back to when he first ran for governor. What was that, 2010, I think it was. And then during this vaccine insanity, totally lost faith in him, especially once when he said that we had to wear a mask outside, even though he knew it didn't do any good, it would send a message. So at one point here in Massachusetts, you actually had to wear a mask outside, even if you were walking your dog all by yourself, alone, outside. Insane. And that was Charlie Baker's idea. He put it into place, and people did it. I was shocked how many people complied. I purposely went out on the little bike trail that we have here in downtown Plymouth and biked up and down the trail without a mask on purpose, just to say, bleep you. I had a little mask sign here. I don't know if you can see that, but that sign says, wear your mask. It was down by the harbor. We had a whole zone here in downtown Plymouth where you had to wear, even after the state lifted its outdoor mask thing, we in Plymouth had a mandatory downtown zone, must wear your mask. Insane. Who did that really hurt? It hurt working class people. It hurt working class people. It was theft from them. And now nobody wants to talk about it because it doesn't serve anybody's interest to talk about it. Certainly doesn't serve the Democratic Party, the far left, Dr. Fauci, nor does it serve a lot of Republicans either that were supposed to be on our side. It's amazing how quickly people cave when they're that fearful. And your civil rights are literally being held on a whim by your fellow Americans. Very, very, very scary. Everyone's saying, well, democracy is, the Democrats are saying democracy is under threat. Republicans are killing democracy. Oh, okay. Well, did we forget about the pandemic? What happened?